He approached her casually, a hint of charm in his voice as he called her sweetheart, fully expecting the usual smile, the polite laugh, and the soft deflection that came with meeting someone new. At first, everything seemed ordinary: the way she carried herself, the subtle confidence in her posture, the calm way she responded, but there was something about her eyes, sharp and assessing, that made him pause, just for a moment, a flicker of curiosity crossing his mind. He didn't notice the way she had scanned the surroundings the instant he arrived, nor how her hand rested lightly near her side as if she were prepared for anything. Conversation flowed easily at first, the kind of light, almost flirtatious banter that makes people forget the hours passing, yet beneath the surface, every word, every gesture, was measured and precise, revealing a depth that he had never anticipated. As the afternoon unfolded, subtle hints began to surface: a way she referenced situations he assumed were private, a knowledge that seemed impossible, and a quiet command in her voice that made others instinctively listen without realizing why. His initial impression of her as simply charming began to crumble as he caught glimpses of her true identity, the way she moved with an unspoken authority, the strategic patience she demonstrated in every response, and the effortless command she seemed to have over everyone around her. By the time the conversation had shifted to more serious matters, he realized he had underestimated her completely. She wasn't just confident, she was a force, someone whose reputation preceded her, someone whose skills, intelligence, and presence could change situations without needing to raise her voice. It was a revelation that left him both awed and uneasy. He had thought this was just another chance encounter, but he had unknowingly stepped into the orbit of someone extraordinary, someone whose life experiences, discipline, and achievements were far beyond anything he had imagined. Every story she casually mentioned, every detail she provided, painted a picture of a life lived with purpose and precision, revealing that beneath the warmth of her smile lay a mind trained for challenges most could only dream of facing. And as the final moments of their meeting approached, he felt the weight of realization settling in: this was not a person to be taken lightly, nor someone whose capabilities could be judged by surface impressions. He had called her sweetheart in innocence, perhaps even a touch of arrogance, but now he understood the full magnitude of who she truly was, and it was a humbling, eye-opening experience, one that would leave a lasting impression on him, reshaping the way he saw courage, intelligence, and the quiet, unstoppable power that can reside in a single individual. He approached her with a casual smile, a playful tone in his voice as he called her sweetheart, expecting the usual polite laughter or a teasing reply, completely unaware that this encounter would shift his perception of reality. At first, everything seemed ordinary: the effortless way she held herself, the subtle grace in her gestures, the calm composure that made her appear approachable, but there was a spark in her eyes, sharp and calculating, a quiet intensity that made him pause ever so slightly, just enough to sense that she was far from ordinary. He didn't notice the small ways she surveyed the environment, the way her hand hovered near her side, poised yet relaxed, or the almost imperceptible signals she gave that communicated awareness beyond the obvious. Conversation began lightly, the casual back and forth of friendly banter, yet beneath her calm demeanor, each word was deliberate, measured, and loaded with layers he could not yet understand. As minutes passed, subtle clues emerged: her knowledge of events he had assumed were private, her ability to anticipate reactions before they happened, and the quiet authority in her voice that commanded attention without a single raised tone. The casual charm he assumed he held over the interaction began to fade as he realized he was being drawn into a world of precision, strategy, and intelligence that he had never encountered before. Every smile, every laugh, seemed almost like a mask for the vigilance and skill beneath the surface, and every anecdote she shared revealed hints of a life lived with intensity, courage, and meticulous preparation. By the time the meeting had moved into deeper conversation, he could no longer mistake her for ordinary. She was extraordinary, someone whose experiences had honed instincts, shaped judgment, and forged a presence that could influence an entire room with a single sentence or glance. The realization was slow, almost imperceptible at first, but gradually, the weight of her capability became undeniable. He had called her sweetheart in innocent familiarity, yet he was now face to face with someone whose intellect, courage, and subtle dominance demanded recognition. It was both awe-inspiring and unnerving, a humbling reminder that appearances often conceal immense strength, and that underestimating someone can carry consequences far greater than one ever expects. And as he left that first interaction, he carried with him a sense of curiosity and a growing respect, realizing he had barely scratched the surface of who she truly was, and that the story of this encounter was only just beginning. In the hours that followed, the realization of her true identity settled like a weight he hadn't anticipated, and he found himself replaying every word, every gesture, every subtle glance that now seemed loaded with hidden meaning. He thought back to the casual way she had shared stories that, in retrospect, were not mere anecdotes but evidence of mastery over challenges most would never dare face, and he marveled at the quiet confidence that made her seem unshakable even in situations where most would falter. The more he thought about it, the more he noticed the signs he had missed, the way she had subtly redirected conversations to reveal truths without revealing herself fully, the way her presence demanded attention even when she appeared to fade into the background, and the quiet precision in her reactions that suggested years of training, experience, and discipline far beyond the ordinary. Every interaction now seemed like a puzzle he was only beginning to understand, each layer revealing a mind as sharp as it was strategic, a character forged in circumstances that demanded resilience, courage, and an unyielding sense of purpose. It was no longer possible for him to see her as simply sweetheart or any casual label. She was a force, someone whose calm exterior masked extraordinary capability, and whose very existence challenged the assumptions he had taken for granted about strength, skill, and leadership. And yet, beneath the awe and the quiet intimidation, there was a human quality, a warmth that made her approachable yet impossible to fully know without earning her trust, a delicate balance that few could ever navigate. By the time their paths diverged, he understood something profound. Calling her sweetheart had been naive, a small word incapable of capturing the depth, intelligence, and unstoppable force he had encountered. He walked away with a mixture of humility and fascination, knowing that few people ever truly grasp the power of a person who combines courage, intellect, and quiet authority in equal measure. That day would stay with him forever, a lesson in perception, judgment, and respect, a reminder that the most remarkable individuals often go unnoticed until you glimpse the extraordinary beneath the ordinary, and that sometimes, one seemingly simple word like sweetheart can mask the full truth of an encounter that changes everything. He approached her casually, a playful edge in his voice as he called her sweetheart, expecting a simple smile or a polite laugh, never imagining the encounter would unravel everything he thought he knew. At first glance, she seemed ordinary, her posture relaxed, her tone friendly, and her presence unassuming, but there was something in her eyes, sharp and calculating, that hinted at depth beyond the surface. As they spoke, he failed to notice the subtle ways she scanned the surroundings, or the slight readiness in her gestures, as if she were prepared for anything. Their conversation began lightly, the sort of friendly banter that often passes unnoticed, yet beneath her calm demeanor, each word was deliberate, layered, and precise. Small clues began to emerge, knowledge he assumed was private, anticipatory reactions, and a quiet authority in her voice that drew attention without demanding it. Every laugh, every smile, seemed to carry hidden intention, revealing a mind trained to observe, analyze, and respond. By the end of the first hour of meeting, he sensed that she was far from ordinary, The realization began slowly, like a shadow creeping across his understanding, that calling her sweetheart was a trivial, almost naive misjudgment, and that her presence alone commanded respect and demanded caution. As the interaction deepened, the layers of her true identity became increasingly undeniable. Stories she casually shared, once seeming like harmless anecdotes, now revealed experience, courage, and skill beyond anything he had imagined. Every gesture, every glance, carried intense subtle cues of someone trained to navigate challenges others couldn't even foresee. Her presence was magnetic yet disciplined. She drew attention effortlessly but never needed to dominate the room. He reflected on the things he had overlooked: the ease with which she read situations, anticipated reactions, and guided the conversation with quiet authority. With every passing minute, he understood that he was not merely conversing with a charming individual but someone whose intelligence, resilience, and discipline made her formidable.